Gorilla Podcast Syndicate production. Love, Growth, and Freedom with Adrian Lim Duarte. A podcast that talks about the twists and turns of life and how things are intertwined by love, growth, and freedom. Powered by Gorilla Podcast Syndicate.
Hi guys, welcome to Love, Growth, and Freedom with Adrian Duarte. Welcome to my third season, and I have so many things in store for you, so many things to tell you, so many things to actually say about this podcast. I'm so excited for this third season. I just want to say thank you for all those who listened, supported, and sent out their thoughts about my podcast. I really, really appreciate it. And if you resonate with all of the things that I talk about, I am so happy that I get to be here with you and guide you through this thought process of what we call my crazy mind. And one thing about me, since if you're new here, is that I am very fascinated with how the world works, with how the things around us works, and how our brain processes so many things. So yeah, before all of this, I also want to say I am part of a new network called Gorilla Podcast Syndicate, who has been helping me out send out all of my podcasts into the world. And I'm so grateful and happy for this chance. You can listen to my podcast in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and also their website, gorillapodcastsyndicate.com. So you could also hit subscribe if you want to continue listening on to these topics. Before we all begin, this is...
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show.
This is my third season, and I've been doing a podcast since March 6th of this year, and I've been doing it just because of pure joy and love for the passion of creating. And this season would be more raw, vulnerable, unstructured most of the time, and really just answering the train of thoughts that come in my head. So this episode is entitled On Making Sense of Things. I want to tour you into process of how I understand so many things in my life and how I process information, and maybe this could help you. So as a person, I am a deep thinker. I like to connect with a lot of people. I am someone who's fond of having deep conversations, understanding the perspectives of other people in situations, in circumstances that boggle my mind. For example, I like to write down the things that I observe out in the world. I ask people what they think of love. I ask people of their idea of being in love, if they've ever been in love, if they've ever understood what love could be for them and what it is for them. Those are the things that I ask sometimes, and I also ask them that are their dreams important to them? How much so? And why so? Because I know it's different for everybody. So on this episode, I will explain to you what you'll expect on this third season, and what questions we're planning to answer and hoping to answer along the way. And these are the questions that go on in my mind all the time. And I guess as a millennial person, this is something that a lot of people would relate to, because this is what's been going on in our minds and lives. And especially at these trying times where there's a pandemic and the world seems to be ending, the world seems to be in constant chaos and disarray. As a millennial or someone coming of age into adulthood, it's just a lot of things to process, and a lot of things that you want can't happen now because a lot of things are breaking down in front of you. And also there's a lot of questions of your self-worth, your self-perception, and how others perceive you. Does it really matter? Does it really work all the time for everybody, or does it always have a one-way train to where you're going? Is it a linear path to growth? Is it always just that? Is life just about growing up? So the first things that we're going to work on, and the questions we're going to work on, is that why can't I be? It's on comparing yourself to others. Why must we compare? Or why are comparisons something that we humans always like to do? Why does it always bother us when someone is doing better, or why does it bother us a little when somebody's doing better but you're trying to do your best and feel good about them? Because I'm not all the time happy for people who, I try to be, but I get to be genuinely happy for a lot of people who has a upper hand most of the time, or who does that, whatever. But it always often crosses my mind that why can't I be like them? So if that's you, listen to the upcoming episodes, and we're going to talk about insecurities as well. Next up is on ever being enough. We're going to talk about self-worth. Does it change along the way, or is it affected by outward perspectives, extrinsic and external factors, or is it mainly just on your mind, in your head, and in your duty to actually provide yourself with that self-worth? And understanding how you see yourself, knowing that you're enough, answering these questions. Why do we always get these feelings of, am I ever even worthy, and am I ever even enough? Then we all talk about, is this all I am? Talking about the questions that, do these external voices in our lives affect our perception of self all the time, or should it affect our perception of self? Should it affect the perception of others around you, or do we let it? Should we let it, or should we learn from it, or ignore it completely? We're gonna talk about that soon. Next is, maybe you're not meant to be, or you're not meant to fit in. We talk about, this question actually is more of the idea that a lot of people in Facebook that I've been seeing, they share this. I have a lot of friends in my timeline who actually shares this. Like, I'm not the favorite friend. I'm not the friend they call when they need me, or they don't want to, they want to hang out with me. They only call me when they need me, or they only call me when we want to have a good time. But I mean, to answer those questions, we're going to answer those in that episode, but to answer those questions, I think it's not all the time about us, the reason why they're not calling, the reason why they're not inviting you on bad times. And it's mostly an internal struggle that they have. And I've noticed this with a lot of my friends. I think it's the world's way, or the world is hardwired to actually not show failures. So when people are experiencing failure, they don't want to bring you along. They don't want to tag you along. They want to tag you when they're successful, when they're having a good time. So yeah. And maybe when you think about that, you're not fitting in one certain group. Maybe you're not just meant to be in that box. Maybe you're meant to be in a lot of different other boxes to learn more about yourself and around the world around you. So maybe you're not supposed to fit in. Maybe you're supposed to fit in with yourself and be able to be a part of so many other things. On chasing the idea of love is another topic that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the idea of why love is such a commodity that everybody wants. And when it comes to them, it's not exactly what they're expecting, because we have a jaded sense of what love could be, what love is, and we refuse to accept the hardships that come with making out or building a life out of love. Dude, I've known that, and now I think when you look at it, when you ask me, am I ready? I'm not sure if I'm ready. Do I know how to love? I do, but do I want to be in love now? Maybe. I haven't found the person that will make me want to, not yet, but I'm hopeful. But even if I am hopeful of love, I know the idea that love isn't something that something that you get easily, something that you work hard for. It takes time, it takes trust, it builds, and so many more. Then we're going to talk about on being selfish. When is it the perfect time to be selfish? When is it the perfect time to choose yourself above everybody else? And when is it the time to be too selfless or too selfish? Those are the questions we're going to answer. And then, one of my favorite topics is all about cancel culture. Are we all just that? Are we all just about our past mistakes, our past lives? Are we never allowed to change? Are we never allowed to grow and be someone better? And is it always going to haunt us? Because this is prevalent right now. If you've seen it, a lot of people have the time on their hands to be on social media, and they keep canceling people just because of their past, just because of what happened, and they don't consider the experiences that make up of this person, or that make up this person and who they are now. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk my thoughts and ideas on cancel culture. Do I believe in it or do I don't? And maybe we could have a healthy discussion. I don't know. I could bring someone in all of these episodes or not. We'll see about that. But obviously, these are conversations that I always have with a lot of people when we talk about things. Next is on wondering whether if you're on the right path or not. So this is a question that a lot of us middle-aged, or not middle-aged, quarter-aged people, and people who are just transitioning from college to adulthood, this is a question that you're always going to feel behind or at the back of your head, is that, are we on the right path to success? Or are we on the right path to growth? I think the question we're supposed to ask is, instead of success, growth. And are we on the path we want to be, rather than, the path to success? It's more of the idea of you liking where you are right now, being sure of where you are right now. A lot of things that have been fed into our brains is that we have to be successful at a certain age, we have to have this at a certain age, we have to do this at a certain age. But we're here to crash those. We're here to break those ideas, because what we look at when we look at life and success, we always think it's a linear path going up, but it's not. It's a graph that goes up and down and up and down and up and down, and sometimes way down and then go way up. It's really a turbulent life. And the best thing about this is that if you're sure of yourself and what you're doing and what you want to do and what you want to be, I guess that's the best space to be in, because you know the right things to do at the right time when you need it to. Next, and the final question for this finale is, how do we go from here? I want to answer and share you a little tips of how these things, how we could go from there. What are the things that we have to keep in mind when we're traveling our lives? When we're traveling in our lives, when we're journeying in the life or in the pool of experiences of this world. And with all that coming in as well, I would want to say how I process all these information. Okay, I'm a person who thinks deeply. I have these conversations with friends, family, and even strangers. And one thing that I've learned, if you talk to strangers about deep things, it's easier and better, because you know that they can see you for who you are without these jaded expectations of who you're supposed to be and who you were. So when you talk to a stranger and then you tell them about your life goals, and they only just see what you're trying to say, what you're saying at the moment, and who you are and what you are in that very moment. So if you've ever tried that, that's good. But if you haven't, you should. And then you'd be surprised that these strangers that you talk to become your friends. And they understand who you are, then they get to see who you are. And I've made some of those in the past months. And I'm proud of it. I'm good with it. I'm happy with it. I cherish those friendships, and those are great. And I can also say that I've always been good at making friends. It's because I've often want to connect. And when I connect, I tell them all the thoughts that I have, and I don't stop or put a hold and put a pin in on so many things. Other than that, I always listen to my own thoughts, and I always write them down, and I even write down some reflections that I notice in my daily life. And if you would notice, I would also have little ideas from little things. I would always remember myself walking down the street when pre-COVID days. I would walk down the street going to work, and I'd realize, it's a good day today. Maybe this is the reason why we're supposed to do this. Maybe this is, And one thing, I also talk about a cactus. I had a cactus. My friend gave it to me. And then I remember making a poem out of it. And metaphorically speaking, similarizing it to a situation that I've been in, allowing myself to feel and get hurt for a little moment in time, and be vulnerable about who I was and who I am to someone I really didn't know, but I did. So I got a realization that no matter how much you take care or put an effort to something, sometimes it's gonna hurt, and it's something you can't stop. So that's how I do things. That's how I actually think. That's how this podcast came to be. And if you're one of those who likes to listen to these things, who enjoy listening to my podcast, I am extremely grateful. I really thank you for giving me a platform to spread my thoughts and ideas to all of you and who listens intently to all of this. I really, really am thankful for you guys. Um, you know, every time that I don't feel like I'm doing something good and great, and I look back into my podcast and why I'm doing this, the reasons of me doing this makes me feel happy that no matter how few of the people who listen to it or how much the people listen to my podcast, that there are people who do. There are people who hear this. And I'm happy and I'm grateful. Thank you for listening to me. So if you want to hear more, check out all of my podcasts and let me know your thoughts in the subscription boxes or the comment sections or the review boxes. And I'd like to thank you guys. Again, this is Love, Growth, and Freedom with Adrian Duarte, signing off.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or via RSS. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, rate and review this podcast and share it with your friends. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And if you want to know more, check out www.guerrillapodcast.com.au or guerrillapodcast.com.ph. A Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate production.